so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Canada Contenders League playoffs here. I'm Corbeck. Alongside me is the wise and wonderful Wialku, and we have an exciting matchup here for you tonight. It's Arial Rise versus SYR Esports in our first playoff game of split number 1. And Wialku, what do we have to look forward to between these two teams?
Well, we have a good storyline here. We have SYR, who have worked their way through and, an upset a little bit against Mystic. So they're here in place. And then, of course, you have Arial Rise, who, oddly enough, had some forfeits go their way to allow them to make it here after losing to Neuters. So let's get a look at these standings, though, so we can see just how these teams did place in their different groups. And as you can see in Group A is where SYRs were. They were second place. And then over in Group B, in second place is Arial Rise. So each team getting 6 points apiece. So they're pretty even. But again, some of those forfeits didn't allow us to see the full potential and the full gameplay that we would have liked to just really get a better knowledge base for these teams.
Yeah, in fact, I believe we've been told Arial Rise actually only played one of their matches. They had forfeits against Tide Pods and Cat Laugh, so we never saw them play. And that one match they did play was against Neuters, so the team that currently leads their group. Let's take a look at the bracket here so we can get an idea of what is awaiting the winner of this game overall. They will be destined for a matchup with the Group A leader Shift North, depending on who comes out of this. And then our match later tonight between Achieved and Agony Esports, they'll be facing off against Neuters. Everybody competing on Wednesday there for that spot in the finals on Friday. So some exciting stuff and obviously some playoff potential here. We all go, and it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top of this one, because we don't have a ton to draw off of in terms of Arial Rise's play outside of really, I guess, their reputations. But let's go take a look at the rosters actually, and let's get an idea of what who these teams are, I guess is the better way to put it.
Indeed, on one side of Arial Rise, some bigger names over there. Milano, Louise, CZ, Ashen Kento, very familiar to me personally. I've seen their names many times. And then on the other side, SYR, as I mentioned, more of an underdog. Here you have Naj, HBR, Swifted, Vazdex, and Rapid. And it's interesting to see this is the storyline, right? The two teams that, have had some forfeits, so we haven't seen the play from them, like you mentioned. I'm really curious to see, will Arial Rise live up to that reputation that they do have?
Yeah, I mean, Arial Rise is a I'd say, storied name here, right, in the T2, T3 scene. They've had their runs in contenders and what have you, champions and so on. And I mean, you see Louise, right? That's a name you should recognize. Like you said, Ashen and Kento, right? They're both players who have had their spots on Challenger League teams, or at least Kento has. So they're names to keep an eye on and kind of recognize. And like you said, over on the other side, SYR is more of just a friend group. I mean, some of these people you will probably have heard of before. I've heard of Swifted, Naj. They've just kind of been kicking around the T3 scene, but they've done well for themselves here in CCL. So I expect an impressive performance out of them. But whenever the chips are down, how fall as they may, it's always hard to predict, right? We never quite know, but we can at least be certain of our map bans. So let's go ahead and take a look at those right now and see where this battle will be taking place here.
Of course, setting is very important, right? We need to know where are we going. That'll help shape this story that's about to unfold before us. I do think that, at least on my screen, I'm not seeing the thing come up with the map bands. I'm not sure if that's just a glitch on my part. There we go. Okay. Well, first up is going to be ban on theme park. We do know that the map pool, of course, was updated recently, so seeing some of these new bans or the new maps being banned out isn't surprising. Of course, these teams probably haven't played on them all that much, so they're going to get rid of them right off the bat and try and get some more comfortable map picks in the lineup. See Bank and Border following, so 3 new maps, and they are all banned in the first 4 bans there, so that's interesting.
And honestly, you're in a playoff scenario, maybe you just don't feel particularly comfortable, right, playing some of these new maps. It takes a while for strategic initiative to trickle down, and based on the choices we're seeing here at the tail end of this, it does seem like we'll be going with some of the old tried and true standards here. So Cafe Online, Villa Online, 2 very sort of old school maps in a lot of ways, maps that these players on both sides, but particularly the Arial Rise team, are going to be comfortable playing at sort of a T2 level. So we should be seeing some good good performance out of them. And then, of course, rounding it out right there, Wes, with a clubhouse decider. Really bold choices being made across the across the board here in the map ban phase. Some scary stuff. Hopefully these teams can handle a wild ride of Cafe, Villa, and Clubhouse.
Indeed, I do actually want to break this down a little bit, though. We did see some play. Not every match was forfeited. So, of course, we do want to go back to what we did see in the group stage. And, of course, Cafe, both of these teams had lost to the top seeds in their divisions or their groups, excuse me. And that would be a 7-2 loss for SYR and a 7-1 loss for Arial Rise. So, Arial Rise picking it after losing to Newt Neuters 7-1 is an interesting choice. Villa is not surprising, though, for SYR. They had actually taken, that's the one map they took off of Achieve. They had won it. I believe it was an 8-6 win. Gotta go back and look. But either way, they did take that map, though, against a strong team. It's not surprising to see that go. But the surprising thing is they let Clubhouse go. They had that last ban there. They let Clubhouse go instead of Oregon. They've lost on Clubhouse twice now, both to Mystic and to Achieve. So it's interesting to see them let that slide through.
I think when push games to shove, maybe Oregon was just not the appealing choice. It is worth pointing out, of course, that Villa in particular, I think, is the most picked map in Split 1. It's been played, picked, I should say, 9 times. But hopefully we're going to get into this game soon. I know we're waiting on a couple of players here. It's also interesting to note, by the way, and these maps do kind of come down rather firmly on the side of the defenders. Specifically, Villa, I think, is sitting on a rather impressive defender win rate overall in the game, right? We look at the kind of general statistics for how the game is played based on developer notes and what have you, and the way it goes at, the major invitationals. That said, in CCL West, things have been a little bit different. Villa actually favoring the attackers by 53% here in CCL. Cafe, though, firmly still in the defensive column, a 65% win rate for defenders right there. And then finally, Clubhouse, again, starting to favor the attackers a little bit more. 42 attacker wins overall, giving it a 52.5% attacker win rate. So interesting there indeed that Arial Arise just statistically has come out on the attacking side and picked into the attacking side on the most defender favored map in the entire map pool here for CCL.
They've had plenty of time, though, to look back, especially after watching that loss, I'm sure, against Newt Neuters. They lost 7-1 again. Just want to state that was a pretty dominant win for the other side and a devastating loss for them. But that was also the first matchup, so I want to give them credit there. Obviously, maybe just getting warmed up or something. Didn't know their opponents very well. Who knows? But either way, a lot of good things can be discovered when you have a bad loss like that. There's a lot of things that you can learn from what the other team is doing to counter you, but also maybe things you can take into your own strat book and be like, oh, I like what they did there. That was really impressive. That really stumped us. Maybe we can do the same thing and stump our opponents. I still want to go back to that Clubhouse pick, though. It's surprising to me. They lost it twice. Now, they weren't super bad losses for SYR. It was a 7-4 and a 7-5 loss. So it was relatively close, but still, after losing it twice, you would hope that if they're going to let it slide through there, you have to come up with some adjustments, because clearly the last 2 times it just didn't work out for you.
Yeah, and I think there's an argument to be made, right, overall in the world of Siege, that Clubhouse is undergoing a little bit of a change in its pacing and in who it favors. For the longest time, we've considered Clubhouse to be one of the more defensive-sided maps, and there's not a lot of depth to plumb on that map. It is probably the most common Siege map, I would say. It's a toss-up between that and the other one that got banned right at the end there, Oregon, in terms of which one is actually the most played map. But Clubhouse has slowly been transitioning away from a defender-sided map into an attacker-sided map, and this is something that, if we do go to this decider, which I think is entirely a possibility in this matchup, we may be discussing in a little bit more depth. But certain bomb sites that have long been considered stalwart of a defensive lineup, for example, your CCTV, right? That's been a bomb site that for a long time, and in any unranked game you go into today, right, will be considered a primo pick for a defender side. That is not a defender-sided bomb site anymore. That is a site that generally tends to favor attackers, and I think you're seeing that shift illustrated here as well in CCL with those numbers, where now Clubhouse has started to lean towards a more attacker-sided map in general.
It's true. I agree. The wall is pretty much guaranteed to get opened up, right? The main wall, it's like almost
Yes.
impossible now. It's just a matter of how much time can you buy until that happens. The other thing though is that attacker repick. You have to wonder how much is that going to impact what we're seeing on these maps. These maps are shifting. You said there's a change ongoing. Well, how much of that change is due to these attackers being able to shift their lineup to adjust to whatever they're seeing? Oh, it wasn't the bomb site. Remember how that used to be a thing? Oh, we're going to trick them into thinking it's this bomb site. Doesn't really work now that they can adjust the lineup on the attack. So you have to think what that adaptability with the flexibility that the attackers have that the defenders do not have. That's going to make the defenders have to make their choices very rigidly and plan it out very much more so than on the attack. You're a little more loosey goosey. You just get to ride with the flow and see, oh, okay, let's do this. We can change what we want to do. I'm not feeling that. I can switch it last second, and it doesn't really affect you too much.
It certainly has added a little bit of like tactical slash strategic depth, right, to the overall considerations. It's interesting though, even with the attacker repicked, Cafe still remaining a defender sided map. It does appear that our lobby is ready, so hopefully we'll be able to jump into that Cafe at any point in time. And here we go. But it is still a defender sided map and quite heavily defender sided as well, which is interesting to me because, like you said, I do think attacker repick has freed up a lot of options for attackers, has made it much more flexible, easier to overcome a lot of these sort of standard defensive protocols. Yet this map, at least in the context of CCL, continues to be sort of elusive. So I don't know what it necessarily is, what the secret sauce we're looking at here with this Cafe is, but I mean, it's a difficult map to attack. I'll admit it myself. I do not like attacking on Cafe if I can avoid it. It is an unpleasant experience because I feel like you're just so funneled, Wes. There's just only so many places that you really get into this.
It's true, and it's really hard too because you have two sets of staircases to go to that top floor as well. So you're really funneled on that top floor, and then there's a plenty of verticality, but also it's a pretty decent sized map. So then you have to think about how long does it take to clear out from above if you're doing a top take on the bottom floor. So there's a lot of things, a lot of pieces that actually do. I agree with you. It makes sense that this would be a map where the defenders can maintain that advantage simply due to those choke points. Now we're going to see the bans coming through for the operators. Thatcher following or being followed by Flores is not surprising whatsoever. Flores maybe slightly surprising-ish, but there's some really good positions for shields on this map, especially Pixel upstairs, for example. You don't want to let a Rotera drone just get in to that position and destroy those too early. Let them do the burn.
It really frees the defenders up from the burden of having to worry about taking a mute or even a Mozzie if they really don't want to. He's actually the second most banned attacking operator so far in this CCL split. The first, obviously, being Thatcher here, but that's also lining up on the other side of the ball. Valkyrie and Mira going right there. I don't think there's a whole lot that needs to be said about those two. They are still overall the sort of dastardly defender duo in terms of bans. They're banned, I think, more than any other defensive operators, namely Valkyrie. She's the one that gets taken off the board the most. Arial Arise here, flashing a couple of shield operators in the pick phase. That's an interesting choice indeed. Ferda showing us a blitz. I can't help but feel we might be seeing Blitz and Blackbeard repicked at a certain point in time, unless they're running some sort of strategy that is just wholly beyond me here, Wes. And on the defensive side, I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. You got your Castle, you got your Thunderbird, your Jaeger Wamai combo for projectile denial, and then finally the mute, because he does provide a number of advantages that are, extending beyond common sort of drone opposition. And there you go. You can already see, Wes, the attacker repicks coming in and a Buck and an Iana being shown here.
They haven't switched away from the Blackbeard yet, so we'll see how long it takes for that to happen. But I'd be surprised if that floats on through. But it could. I mean, you never know. On the other side, like you mentioned, the lineup, but there's no shield. That's a little surprising to me, but I guess we have kind of seen a shift away from Pixel in some cases, and this is one of them. We're gonna see that Amaro is actually gonna be the one brought instead of the Blackbeard. So I expect a quick push in. She could also go up through hatches at the right opportune moment. So just something to watch out for as this one gets underway.
Yeah, this is a particular map and a particular bomb site, right? Where we can get a lot of value out of that Amaru, her ability to zip up to the top floor and already start working on hatches, or alternatively to, like you said, zip through a window or what have you, can be very valuable indeed. Meanwhile, Milano here already taking up position on the top deck. Kento putting a little bit of pressure on the kind of far side of the building, will make their way up as well. Just waiting to see if anybody's foolish enough to take the bait and run out here. But look at how quick this entry is being made. No hesitation at all, dropping in the quick clear, the barbed wire already getting destroyed, and a firm foothold already established just outside of Humidor in the red corridor here for Arial Arise as they continue to kind of push this very aggressively. No hesitation here coming out on their side.
And Milano getting that opening pick. CZ following it up onto Swifty. He's going to put them in a 2-man advantage. 5v3 is so fast, but HBR trying to shoot back, get a kill onto Ashen, but then the refrags are coming back and forth between them. It's going to leave still Arial Rise in that advantage. Milano finding another on the round as Vazdis is the last one in a 1v3. The push coming through, the plant going down. It's not even halfway through the round.
Yeah, it didn't take him very long at all to get this set, and this is probably the kind of decisive attack we would expect here from the side of Arial Arise. Vastex doing a good job challenging, does actually take down the buck, but unfortunately can't confirm there on the ace. Good clean headshot to end the round, and a very aggressive take here, trying to buck the trend, dare I make the pun, of this being a defender-sided map.
Oh man, the dad puns are coming already. That's a bit early. I wasn't ready for it.
Couldn't resist it. It was right there. It was low hanging fruit, I believe, is what they call that.
Oh man. Well, in any case, we see the aggression we expect. You mentioned Arial Rise have been very aggressive in taking advantage of the attacker side of these maps that they have played. And in this case, first round, they'd go ahead and take that aggression and get the round. SYR probably reeling after that one, not quite ready for the level of aggression that they had seen. Their own castle kind of working against them too. It didn't give them the lines of sight towards Cigar, and so just the funnel worked against them in that case. Now we're going to shift down below. They didn't like the upstairs bomb site after that round didn't go in their favor. They're going to shift down to somewhere new, try and throw off these attackers, and then maybe this extended roam above, if they go for it, will allow them to just buy a little bit more time and shut down that aggression.
Yeah, I think it's a good decision here to swap the bond sites. Honestly, it's dangerous in my opinion, and this is, I know, an opinion shared by some of my fellow sort of T3 casters, is that it's very dangerous to just go to the same bomb site over and over again, trying to hope that it works. You know, every time is going to be the charm sort of scenario. Not the best way to sort of address this, but what we're seeing coming out of Arial Arise here does seem akin to me of a very sort of rush aggression oriented comp. You've got the Ying in here. You've got obviously the Finka, who's almost too strong not to bring in this day and age, but a lot of operators who could probably force the issue quite well. And Bakery, that said, losing Ashen early on is a devastating loss right there. Swifted secures the kill, tries to go for one with the nitro cell as well, but won't find it. Kento is down here. Rapid catches him with the shotgun, and this is turning into a disaster because Gods has picked up Milano as well, and that's 3 members of Arial Arise shut down in about 40 seconds.
Well, Ferda and CZ have to make something happen in a 2v5. The swing coming through, they're ready for it. Vazdek's off the board now, and 2v4, they're going to try and attack onto site directly, but Swifted is ready for getting the kill onto CZ. Ferda trying to get a nade kill, and doesn't sing through for them as they had hoped. Nice black ice on the gun, at least we can give credit to that, but nothing else really going in their favor in this round. A 1v4. And again, the early aggression last time paid off. They got in, they got a plant down really early. This time they get in and they all die.
That was a good kill right there. I mean, at least Sledge will pick up one. He'll go for a second one as well, but he won't find it. God's the only victim so far. The 3 remaining members of SYR just sort of buckling up here around the bomb site. Again, they don't have to challenge that 2.5 ACOG. They can just sit here and wait for this to play out on its sort of natural trajectory, and that might be very well what they do. Certainly, though, not trying to let them get away with this scot-free is the Sledge. More shots coming down range right there, but again, nobody in the general area, and he's just kind of firing into the void right now in a desperate attempt to claim revenge for his fallen teammates, and he still won't find them. And I mean, this is the sometimes tense, so never mind. Swifted gets caught peeking, and let that be a lesson to Rapid and HPR. They don't need to make this an aggressive fight.
Well, they got to hold cross angles here and hope for the best. That's going to reactivate the gate. And then the peak HPR can shut the round down. We were a little worried there. Triple kill come out for Ferda, hoping to get the ace to bring it into a miraculous victory. But it didn't happen, unfortunately, for them. Evening up the round count and SYR now. Well, that was a lot better than what we saw from the first round upstairs, but they can't go back downstairs for a little bit. So they have to try again or a mid floor. And it looks like they're going to attempt the top floor once more.
This is the logical choice. I mean, if a team doesn't feel particularly comfortable, right, in defending the top floor, I'd be surprised if they tried to go for the sort of more complex defense of the second floor, right, which requires a third floor extension anyway. So them going back up to the top deck, that's perfectly acceptable. Changes in the lineup, though, being shown here, Wes. They're not going to run the same stuff they did last time. The Mute making an appearance, as is the Wamai Jaeger combo. But this time being added into the mix, you have Rapid here on the Mozzie. It's an interesting choice and perhaps illustrating maybe a more Rome-oriented thought process. And then finally, Gods here picking up the Alibi. So adding a little bit of information gathering. And most importantly, kind of echoing what you said, the castle is out of this rotation, so they will no longer have to worry about the barricades being a bit of an issue. Like you said, you know, it kind of cut down on their ability to defend the site previously. Not going to be the case this time.
Interestingly, though, the Alibi bringing impacts and not a shield, so Pixel is not going to be the thing. It's just going to be the wall with some head height holes opened up in Washroom. So one reinforced and one soft for them. That'll be the way they're choosing to play it. Alibi, though, does have her gadgets, which, if put in the right position, could at least net them information, buy them a little bit more time. If the aggressive swings come in, the pre-fires like we had seen previously on this bomb site, those Alibi clones could be exactly what they need just to slow them down. Like I was saying, this aggressive push has hurt them in the past. Now, Milano going to disconnect at the early part of this round. That is not ideal for Arial.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll get a pause in here or not. I don't think so. The round will most likely continue. Already the droning coming in, the Finka dropping as well. This is good effort here from Ferda to just sort of lead the charge. You've obviously got Kento ushering them in with that Twitch drone, destroying a little bit of utility, namely those alibis, making some kind of real serious dents. Ashen getting hit, I think, by the Pokeball right there, and there's two quick kills for Vastex on the other side. And this Arial Arise attack once more kind of drops into the jaws of SYR Esports and just gets shredded. And you'll see Kento does manage to push back the other way a little bit. That's Rapid who goes down. Kento now working their way across the second floor here. They've got a soft ping as well, so they know at least the relative area of their enemy, but are they going to be able to make it stick? That's the serious question. The F2, obviously a fraggy gun, but can they get into a fraggy position here as they sort of look at each other across the staircase?
Vastex had a great pinch there. They did the old bait where they had the player in cigar just shooting at them, distracting them. Everyone was facing forward, and then bam, the shots from behind catch 2 kills. But Kento's doing a lot of work here trying to make it come back after losing a player to a disconnect and then getting that flank on them. They've been in a tough position, but 2 kills has at least tried to make this round doable as it's a 2v3. But the player pushing up in Piano doesn't actually net the kill there, does a lot of damage. But Kento on a huge teeter. That's a 3K on the round. It's going to put them into 2v2. A minute remaining. These last 2 players a little bit more passive now in their positions, but this is still plenty of time to work with for Arial Arise.
Very clear demonstration here, Wes, of why you shouldn't count this Arial Arise team out. The individual player skill is incredibly high, and Kento's demonstrating it right now. Quad kill coming down the pipe, looking for that ace. Can't quite confirm it. CZ moving up into position where they could be the spoiler here, but you have to wonder if on the side of Arial Arise they're looking for it, and they do. Kento with the ace right there salvages his team from a disconnect and an ugly start to the round to get those 5 kills and bring them right back.
What a massive round, Kento. F2 shreds. You mentioned shredding earlier in the round, and then we just watched it happen further on that one gun just blazing and red hot, finding the heads, finding the bodies, whatever parts necessary to get the round win. Earlier Rise showing that they have resiliency in their blood. That was insane. You're down from a disconnect. You get a double kill against you. It's a 2v5, and somehow that one player able to just come on fire right at the right moment. Now it's up to SYR to try and get their foot back in the door. It was pretty much shut there, and then somehow they had to let it not completely close out Arial Arise. I don't know. They're not looking too hot on this top floor, and they're going for it again. And we mentioned before, going to the same bomb site 2 times in a row is not great, but they don't have many options right now.
No, and it's like I said previously, right? If you can't defend the top floor bomb site, you're not going to have much better luck trying to defend the second floor bomb site. It's literally more angles for you to get attacked from than what you're looking at right here. So, you know, this is probably the only reasonable option. That said, I mean, it's an unfortunate round for SYR right there, and they're going to have to do a little bit of bounce back here because you clearly had that round basically in your pocket, and then Arial Arise, Kento in particular, just decided that they were going to show off their individual talent, right, and murder their way through the entirety of Cafe. So unfortunately, you're in a bit of an unflattering position where the win kind of got stolen out of your mouth, and you got to snap back on that. And this is the kind of thing, too, where this Arial Arise squad does have a little bit of an advantage, right? They're a veteran team. They've played in some serious competitions individually as players. They know what's what. I will also add here, by the way, you see it at the beginning just for a second, but Arial Arise has 100% had the superior drone game here in these attack rounds. Just really a lot of intel being gathered essentially for free. And look at this rush that's been showing, that's Ashen is showing us, pushed right up into Cocktail now, looking the opposite direction. He'll take down that Banshee. That's a little bit of a giveaway right there, but challenging the Pixel directly.
Well, the shield is here for the first time in this bomb site defense, and is their third time going to it. So it's interesting. But either way, they are going to creep up and get close to it real fast here. Not even halfway through the round, they're already trying to clear out this utility. Didn't quite clear all the ADSs yet, but it's good enough now that they will have that position. Milano with a nice peek through. Gets rapid, but it gets swung on by Gods. It gets that refrag, trying to maintain this position near Washroom and on Pixel, but he has a lot to do. There's many bodies being thrown at him, going for those quick peeks. Vazdek's on the backside, it seems, is going to get Ashen, but they still have more work to do. Ferda finding Vazdek is going to shut down that early. God's also being found by that LMG. CZ finding Swifty. This is all falling apart for SYR. Arial Arise yet again having a huge advantage of 3v1. They're already creeping up, and they get the last one as well. SYR falls, and Arial Arise are rising to the occasion.
Another decisive attacking round here. Ashen not holding back at all in the chat as well, as they kind of push forward. Unfortunately, I don't think this top floor is benefiting them at all here on the side of SYR, which is why we're going to see them go back to kitchen service. It is a wise choice, I think, to go back down to the kitchen, at least try that again. It worked quite well the last time, but I think the thing that we're starting to see develop here across a couple of these rounds is just a little bit of a gun skill difference. I didn't want to say it immediately after the early rounds because it did look like SYR was able to hold their own. I mean, they were certainly securing kills, and they certainly have secured kills, but there have just been a couple of times here as where Arial Arise, they've just really snapped into form, the kind of form that we would expect right out of veteran players, and sort of put SYR Esports to task, and even I would say relatively even gunfights that SYR has a decent chance of winning. Arial Arise has just looked absolutely dominant right there, and the aggression I think is indicative of that.
This is the safe haven, at least, for SYR. They can buy a little bit of hope by going back to a bounce that they had previously won, and it really came on the back of a lot of opening engagements going their way. They had won some of those gunfights, as you had just mentioned, that hadn't been very commonly found for them. They had been getting kind of blitzed and smashed into pieces on these early round aggressions coming up from Arial Arise. In this case, though, they had gotten the opening kill, and I think even opening couple kills, and from there were able to ride it down. Now, there was a 3K that almost brought it back, but at the end of the day and the end of that round, it didn't end up mattering. So if they can just get some of these opening picks and buy a little bit more time for themselves, SYR could at least put themselves another round on the board and then maybe give them enough momentum to get an even split.
Oh no, they didn't see the magnet. Unfortunately, the Selva charge goes nowhere. Now they're trying to clear this out. They do. Kali coming into her form here. Something that has recently been tweeted about, actually, is the fact that Kali doesn't get used that much, despite having a very similar ability to clear out util in the way that a Thatcher does. CZ here, not just clearing out util, clearing out bodies as well, takes Rapid down with a headshot, whipped it in a entirely unenviable position, peaks, and I wouldn't be surprised shocked if that was the sniper rifle of the Collie that dealt him that blow that knocked him off his feet. God's going down here as well. Vaxtex has waited a little too long to begin this rotate. We'll try coming back in through small bakery, but doesn't get very far. Gives the game away there. Throws the impact, swings on it, gets one, goes for the second, can't find it. Resorts to the sidearm instead, and no, it will not be. It's Ashen with the long gun there, shutting down any attempt by SYR to win that round out. So the kitchen no longer a safe haven.
Not at all. It was just the bloody kitchen in this case. They're just put through the meat grinder. It was unfortunate, but also they were just caught unaware. It just seemed like they had no answer for the rush in. I think they thought they were going to do a clear like they did last time in other positions on the map. They didn't do it at all. They just went for a straight push through bakery, and SYR, they benefited from the push on the other side last time. This case, not ready for it at all, and they fall rather swiftly like we have seen many times now, going on to the same bomb site. We'll see if they have adjustments in mind, as last time, again, that was real fast. They need to find a way to just put some goo mines in the feet of Arial Rise to play. I don't really know what else they could do to possibly slow them down.
I mean, when in doubt, goo it out, but I don't know if that's necessarily going to solve the problem they're facing here. Part of the problem, I think, was just that they didn't really, like you said, they didn't anticipate it. They didn't play very well around it either. The one that I'm thinking of in particular is Swifted, who kind of tried to bail out, right? Stood up in front of a sniper rifle and got clapped for it. The other thing that I will point out about what SYR's been doing on this map is they've been relying really heavily on Vastex to try and take flank attacks, right? This is something that they have tried multiple times. Pretty much every bomb site they've tried it. And I think, for lack of a better term, SYR Esports is being sussed out. Arial Arise just knows. They know that they should expect Vazdex to appear. It's exactly what happened at the tail end of that round, and they've got enough guns to cover it down and make sure that it doesn't get too much success. But the interesting addition here, obviously, is Fuse being brought out. That implies some level of vertical play, Wes, and probably implies that they'll be trying to, rain explosive hockey pucks down. Good kill by Swifted. Oh no! CZ, oh no, makes a little bit of an error right there before dying himself. And by the way, there comes Vastex back on the flank to limited success.
LMG supremacy. At least they get one kill, but a 2v3 now. This is looking better for SYR compared to last round. Obviously, this is not going to work out in the same manner where the rush through works out. The C4s are actually going to ring fourth, and last time we didn't see it work out. As you mentioned, Swifted was one of them that they just got caught unaware. Now the swing through is going to get shut down by a shotgun in the face. Milano dead and dusted. Now Kenta with the LMG, plenty of bullets at least that they can utilize to try and get these last three bodies, but there's a lot of different angles that you've opened up now that you have to watch out for, trying to regather that diffuser as well. Not sure what the game plan is going to be, but they hope that they can take some ones.
Plenty of bullets. That's the best way to summarize that. 150 bullets, no less, there in the LMG for that Zofia, and it's a monstrosity that probably doesn't have much of a place in the game. But here it is. Kento annihilates Rapid. Just a little tippy-tappy there to the dome. The old Viking crew cut delivered in a very fine fashion, and there goes Gods as well. They're all lining up for Viking crew cuts. What member remaining? HPR again, clutching out a round. Well done on the tail end of that, plays it so well there to just get the ambush. Unfortunately, looking the other way was Kento. And it's a rough defensive half here for SYR, but at least they managed to salvage something out of it as they go over to the attacker side.
Yeah, that was rough. And they're pretty lucky HPR was able to bail them out, because they were giving the ones, like I said, would have to happen if Ariel wanted to take it. Had they just held different cross angles, it probably wouldn't have even been that close. But in that case, one dome, two domes, almost a third. Luckily, looking the wrong way for HPR, and is able to get in pretty easy kill there. I don't want to discredit their decision. Obviously, it worked out for them, but they were put in a bad spot by the teammates falling before them. So it's nothing to do with their decision making really at all. But they get the win at the end of the day. That is what matters for them, especially having very little success, as you mentioned. Not the best showing on their defensive half. They only get 2 rounds, give Arial Arise 4. Now Arial Rise, they have a chance here. This is the map that you had said, statistically, this is a defender favored map, and if that is the case, then Arial Rise are like in a position to just take the map from here, even if they get just even slightly downgraded half and half 3-3 split. That'd still be enough to take the map.
I do have a sinking suspicion we're about to see Arial Arise put the kibosh on SYR. But you never know. By the way, I love that you've come up with the most disturbing Dr. Seuss book: One Dome, Two Dome, Red Dome, Blue Dome. Somebody just aces their way through an enemy team. It's a little graphic for the kids, maybe, but we'll pitch it regardless. Anyway, you see there, Alibi sort of doubling back. There is a body outside. Don't be confused. That's not a player on the enemy team. That is an Alibi being set out there to just be absolutely friggin' obnoxious. It's a very annoying thing you can do. As Milano collects Rapid easily as you please. Vastex, though, it doesn't hesitate to trade it back, so they keep the stinging alive here. One on either side. Vastex doing their best to do their job, get the hatches open right there, and a little exchange of unpleasantries going down the pipe. I think that's Gods trying to just tap something in, but unfortunately, it's the Alibi who strikes next, and Gods is put down.
I guess gods can die. You know, I thought they were supposed to be immortal or something, but in this case, we're going more into other mythologies. But that's going to be some nice shots from Vastex on the Skylight. Usually a position that favors the defenders, but in this case, actually will get a kill from it. And even the man count up, excuse me, no, it does not. And Kento actually is going to shut down Vastex anyway. So all the good they were doing there is all for naught, unless HBR can clutch out a 1v3. It's not an enviable position for them. They're going to do some damage, but it's really nothing gained here. You see the map control is completely in the hands of Arial Arise. HPR maybe going to utilize this time to just talk to the team and say, you know, this round, I'm going to try and clutch it here in a second, but, well, I won't even be able to buy time to talk as I'm going to get my head shot off from this slight pixel peak.
And that's the second death they had through that pixel peak. Just want to reinforce that. I think the most telling aspect of what we just witnessed there coming out of Arial Rise was that the majority of the SYR Esports team died on the roof. They did not even have the opportunity to enter into the bomb site and die horizontally. It was entirely vertical play by the defenders, which I'm going to be honest with you, Wes, you probably know this too, right? You've casted a fair amount of Siege. That's a pretty rare circumstance where you lose two people off the same peak on the hatch above red stairs, and you also lose someone on the skyline as well, because why not at this point in time if you're just giving away kills from the top deck? And again, it's speaking to Arial Arise's gun skill, right? And I think to a certain extent, it's speaking to the fact that SYR Esports, I don't know if they necessarily accepted that they're a little bit outmatched here in terms of gunplay by Arial Arise. And I think that round is a perfect example of that. That's not something you do with a team that's better gun skill than you. You don't try and peek those pixels. You try and play a more structured game and shut down their sight lines, not play into their sight lines.
Yeah, you want to play strategically if you're playing against a team that has better gun skills, right? That's the way you would win. You have to get the angles, you have to get the information game on your side. In this case, the aggression is what's really paying off for Arial Rise. You see a C4 kill. It's SYR that have been losing against that aggression time and time again. Now, here Swift can actually get a kill on Deferta to open things up. That could be just what they need. Getting that Melusi, a pesky roamer, and oftentimes has a really good gun. That MP5 is nothing to laugh at. That thing is so powerful and gets so many kills. You see Citizen and other Pro League players just popping off with it. So it's a gun that you are happy that they no longer have in their hands. But the rush coming through from Gods could catch on the backside. A player in the small bake does a lot of damage, not able to get it, but then gets caught on their own backside. Milano credited with that kill, evening back up the man count.
This is the kind of play that I'm talking about, though. I don't think that's the kind of play that you can make against this Arial Arise side. Now, I like the initiative that was being taken right there. That was a clever idea to just try and rush it out. But Arial Arise are not chumps, right? They're not going to be shock and awed by that at all. Swifted, by the way, just pushing into Bakery. I mentioned shock and awe. Goes ahead and guns Kento down easy as you please. Now, Vastex in a position here where they're desperately considering how they want to bring this blowtorch to bear. Ashen obviously still alive, doubling up their shield protection there from a moment, but the hard breach started to come through here on the Bakery wall, and that will be the locus for the rest of this fight as Vastex steps up to the plate, nails two. Now Rapid pushing in the other direction, and a very solid attacking round there for SYR. So the last round they sort of gave it away, but on this one, Wes, they definitely took it. They are not to be trifled with here.
No, they're showing that this is not going to be a runaway. At least, hopefully. That's what this round kind of indicates, that they have at least the capability of contending here. And that's what we want to see in playoffs, right? We don't want to see just a runaway show, the Ariel Rise show. In this case, it could have been, but no. Yeah, you can never, even if they lost from here out, a 7-3 is not necessarily a runaway, I would say. So SYR showing up, making people known that their underdog story isn't necessarily going to end here. They still have very much capabilities. But we're going to see an odd bomb site coming up next. Ariel Rise is actually going to go into the reading/library room with the fireplace, and it's not one we've seen yet. Obviously, SYR had avoided it. You mentioned the lack of productivity above would make it so you'd have very much doubts of this bomb site as well. In this case, though, Ariel Rise feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily blame them for going to this site. I did mention, they're a veteran team. This is their map pick. They probably feel more comfortable playing this site than I think a lot of teams would do. And you can kind of see from the way that Tachanka is going about this, right? Just opening up sight lines. They've got a pretty clear idea of what they want to do on the defense here. They brought the pulse along, obviously, just for the intel gathering ability here. You'll often see a pulse play over towards the railroad side. You can be very effective. And then finally, you've got Kento on the Kaid, though I have genuinely no idea what that particular Electro Claw was for. It's obviously bigger brain than I have the capability to comprehend. By the way, I love seeing the sights on top of that Tachanka LMG is so funny. You're not actually able to use that with sights in real life. You kind of have to just fire it. So it's always funny for me to see these awkward scopes being mounted on top of a drum bag. Anyway, I digress. The hatches are open on the top, and Ariel Rise prepares for defense as SYR begins their floor-by-floor top-down attack here to challenge these second floor points. And they are awaited on that third floor.
Oh my, yeah, right near ticket booth there. And that's going to be Ferda getting a kill onto Swifted. So a real frag onto Ashen and to Ferda from Gods and HPR, respectively, is going to allow them to have a man advantage fairly early. The aggression this time is actually being shut down. It seems like SYR finally getting a grasp of this aggression from Ariel Rise and are able to punish him for it. That's exactly what we've been waiting to see. We saw a little bit of it last round. We see it again here. This is setting them up for success.
Yeah, the aggression benefiting SYR this time, like you said. It's in their court right now. That said, Ariel Rise, we know we can't count him out. Milano's here to remind us of it. Takes HPR apart. And there's another knockdown here as well. Vastex finishing off Milano, who I think might have ran out. CZ, though, quickly returning the favor. And now a 2v2 on the attack in what is quickly stacking up to be a must-win round here for SYR Esports.
A little over a minute is remaining. They can reclaim that bomb chastity or the bomb, excuse me, the diffuser. They're going to have to rotate down, though, and rejoin their teammate, which will allow these defenders to replace their positions in different areas, such as pillars, as we see here. So this is going to start burning away and favoring Ariel Rise the longer they take to get this execute down. And I'm not sure what the plan will be. Will the player above go down white? Are they going to rejoin, go down red? It's going to take either way a bit of time for them to get there. And this Pulse also having that information in hand is setting up Ariel Rise, I think, to have the advantage in this engagement as soon as things start coming through.
Yeah, they're going to try and push it here into the A bomb site. They have to be wary of this because they must know that they have a pulse by now and that they're probably being watched. God's just covering the angle right here. Keep in mind, it's Rapid who does have that diffuser if they want to put it down. The Nitro Cell coming out, exploding the wall right there. The attempted contest from CZ finds no one. Rapid now beginning to get the plant down. Rapid should be able to do it, but they've got to watch the flank. They've got floor holes to worry about. There comes the Nitro Cell. Kento gets one. Kento gets two. And that's all they need to do because he'll run over and get the diffuser, and that will end the round. Another victory for Ariel Rise and match point as well.
1-2, all you need to do. You're gonna write your little Dr. Seuss book. You can add a few more pages to it. We'll make a bunch of short stories, put them in a bind, and then sell it. That sounds like the Corbeck way. But either way, Ariel Rise
for children.
This is how we're going to teach all of the newcomers. We're going to give them little
Don't hop on frost mats. Anyway, go Buck, go. It's going to be great.
Well, they put themselves on map point, so map 1 is getting closer to the end. Not quite there yet. They still have one more round to find. SYR, though, they let the one get away from them. They had gained the advantage early on, and then they got some refrags and then just couldn't clutch it out in that 2v2 post plant. The position of the planter is obviously going to be hard with all the soft walls around them and the pulse feeding information. The coverage had to be supreme, and in that case, it just didn't work out with all the destructibility coming from those defenders. It really put them in a tough spot. So I want to give credit to the attempt, but it just wasn't quite enough. I think it really came down to the early part of that round not being carried into an advantage into the later part of the round like it could have. And now Arial Rise have a chance to go back upstairs.
It's just a prescient defense. I mean, it was quite well played there at the tail end by Arial Arise. They realized where their kind of defensive maximization, what am I looking for here? Their maximum defensive potential. Let's go for that as a metric. They realized where their maximum defensive potential was, which was getting the opposing team into a fishbowl. And really, that's what that A site is. And they kind of just played to that very well. They had the intel game they needed. They had the site prep they needed as well, so they could hear the sound cues. All quite impressively executed. So a good round from Arial Arise. Again, I don't think anything too sort of surprising just from what we know of this team. These are the kind of rounds that I expect from them. But we'll see. You know, SYR, I'm not going to count them out just yet. Even if they do lose this map, this was Arial Arise's map pick. So that's something to keep in mind as well as they ascend the side of the building and begin their vertical attack. Let us hope this time, Wes, they can all avoid dying on the roof akin to last time, because that would be unfortunate indeed. And there's something you don't see very often, by the way, an Aruni gate on the red hatch. That's funny.
That is interesting. Sometimes you'll see it, but that's normally in ranked, right? Something you're going to see here in T3. And I do like the utility clear coming out. They're playing a very dangerous game by being on the skylight, but they're not being punished for it, so you might as well take advantage of it. They're also doing their due diligence with all the drone work, but they've lost a few drones, and they already had some before the round had really even begun. That's a little concerning. This grenade, coming through, but does not find its target. I think had it been cooked a little bit longer, it actually could have found that player, but in this case, it's not to be. Rapid getting that opening kill, though, on Milano allows SYRs to have a little bit more breathing room, as halfway through this one, it's already elapsed. They're starting to need to be a little bit faster on clearing things out. A nice peek from Rapid, finding a second kill. That's a player playing near picks, but not behind his shield, so they get punished for that as well. This is looking pretty good.
Fastex on yet another flank. Flankstex, perhaps, is the better way to put it. He's got wide open clearance, though. Kento's looking the opposite direction, and Vastex picks up 2 headshots. No contest at all. Now considering the push into Freezer to find the final body, but it's Rapid on the coverage, and SYR Esports delivering a flawless round here. It might be match point, Wes, but they are not down and defeated just yet.
It's not over till it's over. The old cliche, but it's there for a reason, right? It exists. And it's to say that you can never count someone out until you've already collected your money. You've already collected your winnings or whatever it might be, or just the sense of pride from victory. I don't know.
Indeed.
But in this case, you're not going to let the fire go out just yet. They have 2 more rounds to find to get to overtime. So it's still quite the hike up the hill, but it's not a mountain anymore, I would say. At least if it was, they're already past the halfway point. They just need a little bit more energy, a little bit more luck, or a little bit more skill, whatever it might come down to. But those opening kills have been pretty pivotal in spelling out successful rounds for them. Obviously not every time they've let advantages slip, but especially when you get 2 kills in a row like we had just seen there, and then a nice flank up the stairs that was not punished. Like, when things go your way like that, it's really hard to lose those rounds.
Oh, indeed. An interesting Arial Rise shifting their board completely here, bringing an almost entirely new set of operators. Kento, the holdout on the Aruni, as is Milano on the Alibi. They'll still be in the rotation. Other than that, you have CZ on a dock, Ashen coming out here on the Maestro, and then finally Ferda bringing us the Capcom. So an interesting change across the board, a much more, I would say, sort of set defensive lineup, and the only real, I think, challenger in this particular operator swap is that dock. Some people will play them very aggressively, and rightfully so, but to me, a Kafkin and a Maestro in particular, that's a slower paced game. That's a more intel oriented game that we're probably going to be seeing coming out from these guys. I'm very curious to see how much value they got out of those Kafka traps and Evil Eyes respectively, but that's not a good start. Kento just misplaced in that particular spot, easily cleaned up there by Vastex. No one to blame but themselves on that one.
That is the top frag dead, too. So keep that in mind. That is a huge impact player. They have the gun skills that has really allowed Arial Rise to get to the point where they are. They're at 12 kills already, and now they're not going to be able to find any more to pad those stats as they have already been felled. Seeing the lines of sight being held here, it's been pretty dangerous on this pixel position. They've been punished a lot. It's interesting to see them still contesting it, but in this case, there's no one really to fire back just yet. Ferda, though, finding gods. I think that might have been on the repel, so that's one of the repelled players dead and dusted. That's going to be your Ash dead. They haven't had as much of an impact as you would hope for, but this grenade might catch someone. No, just catching their elbow. Looks like it just did a little bit of damage, but the clear still has not come through. They haven't captured Piano just yet, and things are starting to slow down for SYR at the worst moment, too, just halfway through.
This is the slow game, though. This is what Arial Rise wants, right? They're just taking control of the pacing of this match and sort of playing it out effectively. The drop coming in right there. The challenge totally eaten up by Ferda, who was just waiting. The poor Capkin just holding that position this entire time, hunting for kills, has 2 to their name. Vastex now trying to play off the skylight, but it feels a bit in vain as Ashen rips Rapid apart at range with the Alda. And now everything resting on the shoulders here of the top frag. Vastex the only one left alive in a 4v1 for the match point. And well, I'm not much of a gambling man, Wes, but if I was, I would not be putting big money right now on the hands of Vastex, no matter how skilled and no matter if he managed to kill Ashen.
Well, with those odds, you might want to put big money, but you might as well put a few extra dollars if you have the spare change, because you never know, and then you win out big anyway. 4 to 1, I guess, if you went to the if the odds were the same as the man count difference, right, of the ratio, it'd be 4 to 1. So that wouldn't be bad, right? Maybe put a couple dollars down, but it's not going to work out. So it would have been a couple dollars down the drain. Ferda, having opened up the round, I believe, was able to end it there. And I think that was a 3-piece on the round to finish things off on Cafe. A 7-4 victory for Arial Rise, showing that they had chosen this map for a reason. Now they can see if they can go on to the next map with this momentum and take the upset when it's not their map choice.
That is exactly what they're going to be looking for. Of course, the transition to Villa, you see, by the way, Kento and Ferder respectively at 12 kills on their side. And then Vazdex, the top frag over there at SYR Esports, hitting that 16 kill mark. So an impressive round for Vazdex, the perpetual flanker. But that will do it for now. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back with Villa after that.
Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. Combing your hair with your hand gives me feelings I don't understand. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. World without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. You do this thing when I'm talking to you, like everything freezes and it's just you. You do this thing when I'm talking to you, like everything freezes and it's just you. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you. Give it to me like world without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. World without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. World without you. Driving me crazy just looking at it. Driving me crazy just looking at it. You do this thing when you're biting your lip. It's driving me crazy just looking at it. You know me better than I know myself. I don't wanna live in a world without you.
And I've been chillin', watching the ocean with you. Baby, up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our cloudlands when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Cause you got me holding. And I'll be running, possessed by a low, low voodoo. Fired up like a wolf on a full moon. And we're stuck in a la la land. The tides will turn without us. And I'll be killing time like I might be a cartoon. Take it in real life.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Canada Contenders League here. An interesting matchup developing between Arial Arise and SYR Esports. I'm Corbeck. Alongside me is Wes Wialku, and we have had a bit of a rough start here for SYR Esports, but it wasn't as bad as it could be, was it?
No, not at all. They had lost before 7-2 against the Chiefs, so certainly a better showing, but still obviously a loss is a loss. But we will be moving into their map choice of Villa, so that obviously hopefully will bode better. Obviously that was their opponent's choice, so they had chosen it for a reason. It was probably a weakness in what the Ariel had seen from them before.
Yeah, Arial Arise looking confident, right? Not looking particularly fussed by this at all. But of course, we are going over to Villa. Interestingly, a map that has long been considered a defensive stalwart. But here in the CCL, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, it is actually running towards the side of attackers. So that's an interesting thing to take note of here. And in fact, I would argue at least, Wes, that SYR looked a little bit better on the attack than they did on the defense there on Cafe. So maybe this is a good start for them here on Villa. That said, with the kind of confidence and gun skill that Arial Arise is bringing to the table, it wouldn't surprise me if they just sort of turtle up here on these quite difficult to attack Villa sites and just sort of settled in to walk this one through.
We disconnect right away. Hopefully we can get back in the lobby, but that's going to be the first band coming through. And thinking about bands on this map, I wouldn't be surprised to see Flores band as well. There's plenty of different positions to put shield, such as classical, right? Top of main stairs. Plenty of different positions, but there could also be other bands such as Jackal. Obviously, there are some capabilities for roaming, and especially that basement that no one seems to really touch. That could be a really safe avenue for defenders to really creep up from behind. So it doesn't surprise me that Jack will be banned. I guess it is a little surprising because it's more of a ranked ban than I would say a comp ban, but here we find ourselves with it anyways.
Yeah, Jackal getting picked off the board here, and by SYR, right? They've made their attack a little bit easier, I think, as part of the process of thought here. They now have the option to bring the Flores along, right? They're starting off with that distinct advantage. Obviously, it's a gamble because eventually you will have to take over on the defensive side, whether you like it or not, in which case you will be on the receiving end of the Roteros. But in this particular situation, I don't think it's the worst decision they could have possibly made right here. I think, in fact, it's semi-wise. Like you said, though, Jackal really does come off as more of a ranked Ben. How often do we actually see Jackal picked? I think we saw him played maybe once on Cafe, so he doesn't have a particularly high and or sterling pick rate here amongst these competitors.
No, not really, right? Because it's at the cost of utility most of the time.
Yeah.
Now, there's obviously exceptions to that, and he does bring smokes. So, I mean, you can make exceptions to that rule here and there, but it's not an operator that we see has a high pick rate, like you mentioned. It's going to be not as good as what a Finca, Yana, Zofia, and then on the other side of things, an Osa with her shields, or just a lot of different things that could replace them that probably are going to be more useful. You can get the pings onto a roamer, sure, but most of the time that's in lieu of poor drones, right? Like that's really what it is, in my opinion, most of the time when people bring a Jackless, because your drone work isn't paying off, and now you have to kind of use that handicap. I don't think that. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, but overall, that's the reason I would see a team usually bringing him is better utility that you can help yourself with.
A Flores, for example, if we were going to talk about better utility. And I mean, Flores, like you mentioned, is a very dangerous operator to have on the board. He's very strong. I mean, he's just genuinely very strong. He offers you 4 very solid opportunities for utility clear, specifically hunting shields, hard breach denial sort of gadgets. Very, very good at that. He also has a very solid kit. He's got flashes. He's got a incredibly effective assault rifle in his pocket as well that he can bring to bear here. He's the kind of operator that deserves the bans that he gets, right? He's very sensible. I think the same argument, actually, ironically, I don't know if it should be made about Thatcher. I think that Thatcher is overbanned in a lot of circumstances, but I would transfer that same logic over towards your Miras and your Valkyries, and seeing them removed from this map here, taken off of the board in Villa, should surprise absolutely no one, right? Because they are very strong operators in the Villa sense. You don't want to deal with them, so just get rid of them. We don't need to think about them ever again, and play it out with the strategies that everybody knows that are relatively canned. That said, though, I am curious to see where Arial Arise starts us off. Logic would dictate, right, that you're going to go ahead and start on AVG. It is probably the best defensive side on this map, but the way that Arial Arise have been playing, wouldn't surprise me at all if they started out down in the kitchen, for example, just to sort of take the tertiary out of the pool early and throw a little wench in the wagon of the attackers.
That's true. They have been very aggressive too. So you'd think that a first floor defense would allow them to go above and do that extended holdout like they like to do, it seems. And they're usually pretty successful with it, especially if they can get those early kills. We've seen the C4 kills on the roof even of Cafe. So it's just seeing how aggressive they can be, and they can hold different pixel peaks. We've seen that. So they're probably going to, like you said, that's a very realistic possibility. But even if they go to a standard site, planes and games, let's say they go there, I would still expect to see massive aggressive plays coming up from them. Maybe an extension both below and off towards statue and trophy. I wouldn't be surprised to see them just playing all over the map, just trying to keep SYR off of their balance, because that's the way they've been winning rounds. It's been just throwing them off by having this massive aggression, and sometimes it's been punished, but oftentimes, more often even, it's been successful for them.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that the aggression is going to be a characteristic that we're going to see come out of Arial Arise very forcefully, especially on a map like Villa. It's known for its sort of roaming ability, right? Its ability to get into annoying places. There are a lot of rooms and what have you. It can be very difficult for them to find a particular spot where they want to hide, right? Or something like that, and sort of suss them out. And I think that something we noticed when we were watching SYR over on Cafe was that their drone game was not super strong, especially compared to Arial Arise. We saw Arial Arise, I think, doing very good due diligence with their drones, right? We, thinking of one top floor round in particular where there was, maybe 3 drones up at once. One of them was a Twitch drone clearing utility. The other 2 were gathering intel. That's not something that we got as much of a view of from SYR. They seemed much more focused on kind of finding angles and trying to fight them out or hold them out. And I do kind of wonder at the end of the day if that's something that maybe could be a little bit of a handicap here for them on a more complicated map like Villa, where, like you said, aggression is going to play into the side of Arial Arise.
I will say, though, we did see SYR lean into the aggression at certain points. We did see them get those flanks, especially, that could be, deadly for their opponents, because they had gotten Vastex to get massive kills. We saw both on attack, the flank up white, but also on the defense, the flank up red. So as long as they can keep that in their back pocket and make it work on Villa, they're a map choice. Obviously that could be what they're hoping for here.
Yeah, indeed, that could be what they're hoping for. And like I said, they did look a little bit, despite the drone issue, which I'm not going to let go of, by the way, because it's an important thing to do. But despite the drone issue, they did look a little bit challenged when it came to, or a little bit less challenged when it came to the attack. I was going to say they looked more convincing. It does look like we have the missing member of SYR back in the match, so we will not need to take a break. All our delaying there is done. No more podcast on R6 mode here for CCL. We'll hop right back into the game and we'll see if SYR can maintain some solid attacking performance here on their map pick of Villa.
All right, we don't have to get into details. Talking about what about a 11 map ban or map pool? 11 maps. Let's go with 11. I hear people talking about that, and I don't know why I went to that voice, because it's a valid conversation to have, but it's just it's the general idea of we're just talking our heads off here, right? So let's get into the action, man. I'm waiting. I'm ready for it. I think everyone is, and I'm happy to see that they are going to start playing some games. Like we had said, it was a possibility to see them go down below in the kitchen, but this is kind of what I would expect after seeing them go to the top floor for their first site on Cafe. They do seem to like to just start with their strong site right off the bat, and then we'll see if this aggressive roam comes out like I'm predicting. But new op that we haven't really seen, or I guess there's really a couple, but that Thorn especially, if those gadgets are placed well and then also in tandem with the Melissi Wubs, that could be a deadly combo.
It is a deadly combo, but Thorn is an operator who punishes people who are incautious maybe is the better word to use. It's kind of like Kapkan in that regard, right? If you don't do your due diligence, bad things are going to happen to you with a Thorn around, and you're going to get caught looking. That, or obviously, like you said, you sort of force the issue, but I don't think necessarily Milano is going to be playing for that. That said, almost 30 seconds into the round here, the defenders look like they have a relatively solid setup. Already SYR is showing us their attack pattern, a lot of force being directed over to this balcony, probably somebody going to go for at least one of the cutoffs. Yeah, sure, Vastex there firing in through the study window, just trying to get a long sight line in play as the rest of the team begins their approach, but an early kill there. Vastex gets taken out by the spear as Swifted just challenges very aggressively, runs in and gets gunned down. Milano dies in the same set of fire, but Kento there to get another kill in, and that, I think, probably is the end of the SYR attack. They are just getting ripped apart in study, and this is not a lot of strategic depth on display in this round right here, Wes. That was a very World War I-esque, everybody charge in and hope for the best strategy, and it did not end up with the best right there.
Man, this was like World War II Russia rushing in with not enough equipment. You just got to pick up the gun from the dude who just died next to you, and then you just get slaughtered. Just I don't know what's going on. I just watched people just get slammed. The only death, right? That'd be kind of cool if you could do that. But Arial Arise, the only death they had was from a TK. It was pretty much a flawless round, and it came on the back of the top fragger from SYR dying right off the bat on the window of study. And then from there, the team just was like, well, let's just full send it. And it was just not the play. They just get slapped down. I don't know what they were thinking. I'll be honest. That was kind of rough. But you know, whatever. They're going to go on to the next bomb site. They're actually not going to go downstairs. They're going to go to trophy and statue. And, you know, my stats are probably outdated, but last I knew, this is like, you know, a few months back, this was actually the worst bomb site statistically for the defense compared to the other two main ones, which was Plains and Games and then Kitchen. So we'll see. You know, Arial Rise might be able to change that, or perhaps my stats really are outdated. This is actually a better bomb site than I give it credit for being. But it's interesting to see them not take advantage of that hold that they could have below with that roam game, because I really do think it's strong.
I mean, I think that round also spoke a little bit, that last round spoke a little bit to their lack of droning. The fact that they didn't realize that there were players there watching the angle right at the top of the stairs. It's just a mistake. But like you said, I mean, this isn't the most defender favorite site probably, but the way that Arial Rise probably feels about it after that first round, I think they're quite confident in their ability to put up a relatively strong defensive performance on any site. And I couldn't blame them for that. If SYR tries to run strategies like, wow, Vastex just got lit up somewhere by CZ, that's a brutal start to this. Milano getting in on as well, and now it's a 3v5, and it's only 40 seconds into the round, Wes. This is tragic here for SYR Esports.
Okay, sorry.
It just gets worse.
It doesn't get any better, it seems. I'm not trying to be cruel by laughing there, but this is almost comical by watching them just peek into these angles and just get their heads blown off. It's like, I didn't know. This is like a montage on a YouTuber's channel, just watching all these kills coming through. I think this is the right play by Gods. Let's slow down, man. Like, the rush plays were not their style last map. A little bit in certain areas, but they're going full send on the main points of aggression that you would expect. Arial Rise are just sitting here like, oh, you're doing the normal take and you're going to be aggressive? We'll take that and just eat up the bodies that are being thrown into their hands. I feel like SYR really could benefit from just other avenues of attacking and just take what is given to you, right? It's like in football. You got to take whatever is given to you. You don't go for the big plays unless they're there. You just take those short yardage plays and just get the first down. Just get those check marks, get those check points towards getting a goal, right? Getting a round on the board. You can't force something like this.
Yeah, it's an appalling set of rounds. Like, realistically, it's appalling. And SYR is better. We know that they're better than that. They showed us on Cafe that they're better than that. They are genuinely not a team that just funnels straight into the guns of their enemies. So I don't know what's going on over in their camp. I don't know if they put a little too much faith in their sort of strategic ability, these tactics or whatever it is, but they've got to work it out just a little bit. You cannot be sacrificing rounds like that. Losing 3 members of your team before you've even hit a minute mark is some unranked level, you know, problem. That's something that they really need to fix here, and hopefully they will fix with this pause. I mean, well, I call it a pause, but this artificial pause that Gods has delivered onto them at the moment.
It's kind of rough too that you have no kills for your team, right? Like, there's nothing nothing to take away from those 2 rushes. You didn't get a single kill. Like, there's no positive. All you can say is at least it was done quick. The pain wasn't like super long. I don't really know. Kind of just messing around at this point until the next round starts. They're gonna at least try and get a kill here. I mean, it would be a moral boost, but they get it. There it is. On to Ashen. Yay, moral victory, and then they get slapped down by Kento. So short-lived, but hey, at least they have time to talk about it. We'll see if their adjustments are going to come through, but that's 2 rounds in attack, and you said this map is shifting towards being more attacker-sided, and when we say attacker-sided, basically, if it's 50%, it's attacker-sided, right? Like, that's just how it is in Siege, with how we've seen it play out, just like with Coastline. So to see them struggle so badly, I'm just going to say it bluntly, it's pretty bad. They're going to need some adjustments now. They can't afford to muck around in the state that they're in. They need to get some kills, they need to get some confidence, and then they need to get some wins, honestly. Get some points on the board. This is your map. Like, you should have a better showing here than you did on your opponent's map.
You should. That's just the truth of it, right? And, you know, you were talking about percentages. I think it's at like 53%. So it is attacker-sided. It's not hugely attacker-sided. And obviously, Arial Rise has not read any of those statistics. They don't believe them if they have, because it's looking very defender-sided right now as we go down to Kitchen and set up here. This site demands vertical clearance. This demands vertical clearance. It requires SYR Esports to take control of the trophy statuary area, and Arial Arise knows that. Look at how they're spreading their bodies out here. 2 members, 3 members even maybe going up to the top floor, the rest spreading out below. You've got the pulse here for intel gathering. Basically no one left on site at this point in time as the entire squad spreads out and gets ready to punish any members of SYR that they can, including Milano challenging out of the garage with the pistol. That's just getting nasty there before running back towards the site and maybe regrouping with the team a little bit.
That's when you're feeling yourself when you do something like that. There's no way, right? That is just, you don't do that unless you have just that much either disrespect for your opponent or just that much confidence in yourselves. I don't know which side of the coin we want to focus on, but either way, they're going to be focusing on clearing straight above site, and there's not too much of an aggression coming through. We do see pings coming out, so they at least have some drone work giving them the information. It was a little late, it seemed like. The shotgun peek is not going to pay off. Ashton gets shut down by Gods. The other shotgun peek, though, does, so the refrag is going to be there. Some shots from above trying to get the kill, but the C4 is going to ring out and miss. That's going to be a lot of back and forth between these two squads, but the information the Pulse feeds will at least give them the information needed to know that there are at least 2 players above. Another kill from Ferda gets SYR into a disadvantage here as they're trying to clear above, but it is just hard going.
I mean, even the best players on the side of SYR can't get anything going. Vastex, who got 16 kills over on Cafe, is sitting at 0-3. Finally, Rapid manages to secure something with Buck and maybe stem the bleeding a little bit. But Milano gets their second auto-shotty kill of the round as CZ begins their slow creeping approach into trophy here. Rapid, of course, I think completely unaware that he's in any sort of danger. CZ, though, will get caught by HPR, so good coverage there on the backside, and that leaves 2 alive. Ferda still out there at 5-0, by the way, on the vigil, so going to be incredibly hard to hunt down. And then, of course, Milano on the pulse basically just has free view on HPR or whoever they want right now. The only benefit is he's not in the general area. There's the swing, and Ferda secures the kill, secures the diffuser. Rapid gets his own back, though, and now a tense 1v1 here. The swing coming out from Milano doesn't confirm the kill. Rapid goes running away, and Milano backs up.
You have flashes, please use them. I don't like when utility is not used. It kind of bothers me. The shotgun in hand could get the shots, could get the kill, but it's not quite landing until then. Milano in the 1v1, shutting it down. Rapid trying to be the hero for his team, but just didn't pay off. And there's no ADSs that I saw. I don't even know if Jaeger's on the board. Why didn't he use the flashes in the 1v1?
I don't know. I genuinely don't have a good reason for you. I think probably the concern might have been that if he had gone for the flash, Milano would have just charged at him and killed him. I mean, you are vulnerable, right? In that split second where you have to pull the pin and throw the flash grenade. That's all I could think. I mean, Milano also collected, I would add, 3 shotgun kills in that round, which is pretty brutal. You don't see that very often. Most Pulse players will come out with the UMP. So I think, again, that sort of speaks to the fact that Arial Rise is feeling incredibly confident right now. And to be honest with you, Wes, they have every reason to be. They've looked so dominant here on Villa. You would not even have thought that SYR got any rounds off them over in Cafe. It's been a brutal set of rounds here for the SYR side, in which they've managed to muster a grand total of 5 kills across 3 rounds.
It's not a lot for 3 rounds. I mean, it's
not.
I don't know what you hang your hat on at this point. You have to find more avenues for success than we've seen. Obviously, that was a better round than the last 2 rounds, but still not quite enough. I do want to give credit to Rapid. Really was trying to put the team on their back there, it seemed, as they were getting refrag after refrag, trying to shut down any aggression Arial Rise is throwing at them. But we need to see some of those players that we'd seen last map step up a little bit. You've mentioned Vastex getting shut down 0-3. You don't want your fragger to go from red hot to just cold, and it is quite the difference, and it's a stark contrast, and it's showing on the scoreboard as well. I mean, you're 0-3 now. It's just an ongoing run of losses, and SYR, mentally, you have to be concerned for them at this point. That's 3 in a row on top of the one that you just lost in the end of the last map. 4 in a row then, technically speaking. That's a lot of time between some fast rounds, but yes, there's so much time taken before and since their last victory. That's going to be the opening kill for Ferda to only hurt them more.
And they've died to that angle before. I'm just gonna be blunt. I mean, they literally have died to that exact same angle before, so they know that that's a thing that Arial Arise will try and do. You have now lost your Iana, which means you've lost 2 frag grenades and the scouting ability of the Gemini clone already at a very early stage. Gods here kind of trying to be the sharp edge, just gave themselves away. Ashen goes prone and collects the kill off of Gods, and that's Ashen's first contribution to the effort, but a sort of flashy contribution indeed. Vastex picking up one with the frag grenade right there. Furta comes swinging down the other line, gets rapid, but Vastex immediately puts one back the other way. That just leaves 2 operators here for SYR, both of them at low health. Make it 1 because Vastex gets caught out by CZ, and everything on the shoulders of HPR. AK 12 in hand, gets 1, gets 2. HPR turns it into a 1v1 in a split second. Goes for the next kill, approaches close to the door. He's got to be wary of that shotgun. The swing comes from Ashen, and finally SYR Esports is on the board.
Woo! Okay, there we go. They won the ones this time, and they kind of gave it to them. HBR getting those shots onto the bodies in near the map. They just kept swinging through. So much information gleaned as well by the clone, the Gemini, right, of the alibi. And it's surprising. Well, not really that surprising, but the aggression wasn't able to really capitalize on that information. The pings must have been ringing through, and yet still the gun side for HPR is the one that's winning and getting those kills with the AK in hand. Still, though, a lot more to do. You're 1 to 3 now on the round count. So still, if you can't find another round, especially on your attack, then things are going to look dire. So you can't be too satisfied with that. You have to admit, too, they didn't really have any business winning that round in that situation. It was more Arial Arise giving them the ones and giving them the bodies they needed to even get that round. So SYR can't rely on that every round to get wins. They need to start coming up with better plans and better executions. And just overall, the lack of information, the drone work that you've been critical of, that round particularly showed that they were not getting the information they needed.
I mean, honestly, like the confidence thing cuts both ways, right? It's very much a double-edged sword. Sometimes you're hyper confident and that's really good, right? It allows you to make aggressive plays. You take risk and those risk pay off in big ways. The alternative side is you get a little overconfident and a, reasonably good opponent can punish you. I don't know if that's necessarily what's happened here. I think that round was a bit of an anomaly. Just the general tenor of this particular map has been so in favor of Arial Arise. Though that said, I have seen many times, Wes, a team that has come out, started to slack because they were doing so well, right? They felt like they didn't have a serious opponent on their hands, and suddenly they're staring down the barrel of overtime, wondering what happened. So we'll see if SYR can kind of manifest that energy, but they got to find it in themselves, and that is not the way to start. The Sterling SMG in the hands of Furta there, claiming an easy kill on a Rapid.
Information, yet again, not giving away that player. Swifted getting that kill to Ashen, but there is a down on the Frostmat from Vastex. So if they don't help him back up, and defenders nearby could claim that kill very easily. There's going to be the Iana getting shut down, and a second one to follow. Vastex stuck in that Frostmat. The teabag coming through, of course. You got to be expected at this point with what we've seen in the chat. So I'm not surprised whatsoever. But HPR and Gods now have a lot to do. A 2v4. And they've been gifted rounds in the past when it's been a man deficit, but I don't get the feeling that Arial Arise are feeling quite that generous.
It's not a teabag. It's a tactical crouch. He's trying to minimize his target, target profile for potential refrags. HPR apparently not minimizing their target profile at all, gets wasted by CZ. That leaves everything in the shoulder of Gods, who must channel every inch of divine energy, and nope, there it goes. Milano wiping Gods out as well, and Arial Arise continues their stompage here of their opponents of SYR. SYR just cannot find their level, Wes. They just can't find it.
Yeah, Nietzsche needs to redact his quote. It's not God is dead. It's Gods is dead.
Gods is dead. That's correct.
Yeah, we gotta fix that. Get the history books in on it. Looking at SYR and their attack, this is the last round, right? This is the last attempt that they have to try and salvage this half. Because if they can get to a 2-4 split, while this has been in more recent history attacker sided, it wouldn't be impossible, right? It wouldn't be that surprising to see them get a 4-2 split on their own defense, potentially. Of course, that would rely on them winning strategically, as we've seen time and again, Arial Rise certainly have that gun advantage. They are the gunners here. They are the ones who are going to be aggressive, and they're going to win the aggressive fights. So you have to slow them down, shut them down in different ways, holding cross angles, shutting them down by utility, whatever it might be that helps you glean an advantage. SYR need to grasp it, and so far they just haven't been able to do it. The information game, you had a 0 run in and get killed, and they're the one with the most information you could possibly have. It's just something that you can't have.
No, and again, it's the thing that I mentioned right at the start of this map is on the last map, they did not have a very good track record with the dronage. I think that's hurting them right now. I feel like we haven't seen a lot of players on the SYR Esports side really sitting back and using their drones and taking their time. We've just not seen it. It hasn't happened. And now you have Ferda, the top frag here on Arial Arise, wandering around as a cav. That's almost certainly going to result in somebody getting caught off guard if they're not smart about how they use their drones right here. They've got at least an idea there's a frost mat in the window, so they know that they have to be a little bit wary here, but I doubt very much that they know that both Ashen and Milano are patiently waiting on the other side around this tub for someone to walk in, and there's a kill from Ashen already as Milano waits with a shotgun to gun down anyone who runs back past that window, and this already is starting to look very ugly indeed.
Milano's waiting for the jump out, waiting for the opportunity to pounce. They could get a kill, but Vazdek's going to be the one to shut down Kento, at least evening up the man count. The shotgun does pay off. God's going to peek into it and get felled. The shots from the angle on the window almost net the kill on the Milano, but they escape with their life in this case so far. But the cross angles on the windows is really hurting him. CZ, though, comes to the rescue, gets the headshot onto HPR. The noggin is hit. Rapid and Vazdek's left in a 2v4. We've seen the story before for SYR, and they have not been able to do much with it.
Milano, on a sliver of health here, has used all the goodwill they have left to survive in this particular round. They've got a pistol and a shotgun and a dream. There's the run out. The long distance shotgun play, though, is punished by Vazdek, who happily cleans that one up. CZ, speaking of happily cleaning things up, gets Rapid and then gets Vazdek as well, and the Aldous still firing all the way until Sunday. And so Arial Arise making a impressive statement on their defensive half. SYR Esports reeling right now, looking for some way to turn this back to their advantage.
You know, like the nerd in me wonders, shooting all the way till Sunday, like how long would a bullet stay, you know, if you had shot it? Like, how long does it take to land? And then, you know, how many bullets per day would that be on average? You know, my brain is just going all over the place with the mathematical problems that you've just posed me, Corbeck. So thank you for that. You've given me much to ponder, but there's a lot to ponder for
fire in space. It just goes forever, right? I don't actually know that would work because anyway, whatever. Yeah, that's it. Sorry.
That's all right. Physics, science, math. Yeah, we're here on Villa. They have the map, so the geography as well. All subjects being covered here. SYR, though, need to ponder what they need to do on this defense to start a comeback, because they have quite a hill to climb, as I've said in the past. This time, though, it really is kind of a mountain. You're down 4 rounds. You're 2 rounds away from a map and match loss. There's not a lot you can really say has gone well for them on this map. Last map, I think they did actually do pretty well. They had a good showing.
They did okay.
More so than, you know, maybe some people would have expected, considering the underdog story. But this map, their map choice, in fact, has been the disappointment, I think. And
yeah,
the defense needs to show that they chose this map for a reason, and it needs to start here on their first round of defense. Plains and Games is going to be a standard site. It's going to be a standard hold, opening up the wall as you'd expect, looking towards study with 1 reinforced. They have plenty of utility as well to protect themselves, so it's going to rely on Arial Rise to just get some frags and get some utility clear, but the frag coming in from Milano opens things up. Gods with an instant refrag leaves that at 4 apiece.
Well, the problem now is you're looking down Arial Arise's barrel, and they have, you know, 2 LMGs on the field, or did have 2 LMGs on the field. Interestingly, though, Ashen has chosen to bring a shotgun to the party as a little bit of an ego maneuver. Can't necessarily blame him for it, considering they are really putting the hurt on SYR Esports right now. The LMG, though, in the hands of CZ is going to be the most deadly weapon remaining on the team. It's taken off the board. Vazdek and Rapid combining for 2 brutal kills. Fortunately, Ferda is there to put it back the other way. Swifty gets taken down as well. Ferda on an absolute sliver of health, caught in the study and gunned down by Rapid. And that's just how the cookie crumbles right there. Kento with the diffuser, the last one left standing. He's got the F2 in hand, though, Wes, and that's a scary gun indeed.
Indeed, but Gods could get caught while they're on the rotate. Oh, it's unwise decision there. Gets slapped down by Kento. We saw them get an ace with this weapon in the last map. They're certainly comfortable on it. Baiting out the diffuser, and they get the kill. Rapid fell for it. Arial Arise are going to bring us to map and match point.
I mean, honestly, there's only so much we can really say about it. There's just only so much. It's just, in that case, in that 2v1 scenario, it's just small mistakes. You've got the rotate coming in from Gods for some reason, right? Pulling across the front of an open doorway when you don't know where your opponent is a dangerous thing to do, especially when your opponent is someone who aced you on the last map and is a scary player indeed. And then, of course, Rapid getting caught out for the fake. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh. Many a Siege player has fallen for a fake. Let us not pretend that is a rare occurrence, but here, staring down the barrel of the match point, with playoff chances on the line, with prize money on the line, pride on the line. That's the kind of thing you probably shouldn't be falling for. So I guess the hope here really now is SYR has their 1 round versus Arial Arises 6, is that SYR at least picks up some lessons from this that they can apply to their future matches.
Indeed, they are certainly going to have a book full of things they can learn, I would say, at this point.
They probably will.
Yeah, especially on attack. This is a playstyle that has become more popular, I would say. They need to think about aggressive playstyles and how they can shut those down, because this is not a unique thing. Obviously, Arial Rise have the guns and the names and the reputation along with the aggression that is being brought, but there's other teams that play like this, so you need to just have a plan in place. Fast X still getting that kill on Ashen, excuse me. That's going to allow them to have the opening kill, but last time the refrags came through and it was even. This time is actually going to maintain that advantage. So this could actually be SYR trying to fight back a little bit.
Got to admire the pride still there in SYR, because they're not giving Ashen any breaks at all. So, unfortunately, by the way, Ashen getting taken out early, that was the only hard breach they had in the tank. So that is a bit of an unfortunate loss, all things considered. I mean, Habana is a very valuable operator to lose within kind of the first minute of the match. Those X-Kairos pellets completely removed from the board here. That said, though, I mean, Arial Arise perfectly capable of doing it with nothing but their guns as the Lion ping comes out, percolating across the map right there. CZ trying to play very aggressively. That Vector LMG in hand, but it's Milano's LMG who claims the first kill, and then Milano dies almost immediately. Swifted and Rapid getting some kills. Ferda there, though, to challenge down. Now in a 2v3 scenario again. Kento and Ferda still alive, and then Rapid from nowhere off the top rope collects both kills in rapid fashion.
Wow. They must have just perfectly aligned themselves for him to get that double, but it works out. SYR by another round. They're up now to 2 rounds, so they still have 4 more to go to get to overtime. And I think that somewhat of a gift from the death of the hard breach in the early part of the round, but at the same time, maybe it was a good play. We didn't get to see it on camera, so what SYR did to get that kill and what Arial Rise maybe did to give that death away, well, it remains to be seen. But either way, it's a round and you'll take it. So SYR now have to rotate to a different bomb site, and they're going back to the one that they had a little bit of a throw on the 2v1 in the final moments of the round.
Indeed, they return to the site of the crime, going back to AVG and hoping that they can have a better run of it, all things considered, this time around. And it kind of remains to be seen, honestly, because really they were in a decent situation last time they were here in a 2v1 scenario, and they kind of gave it up. I don't know if they're going to give it up again, though. I'd like to think that they've, taken what happened previously to heart. I mean, that was a very decisive defense last round. They just need to kind of channel that energy again here, Wes, and come up with something big. But as I say that, their reinforcement setup, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired here, all things considered. And you'll see Swifted kicked out on the roam, but it's been a pretty rough map here for Swifted on Villa. And only now, by the way, do they reinforce Gunvolt, which is a little bit worrying in and of itself.
Yeah, a little late on the site setup in general. They had gotten some soft destruction, of course, but Kendo getting that kill on the
What?
Vazdex is going to make it a very different round compared to
What?
last, because Vazdex did have a huge impact on the last time they went to
Oh,
this bomb site. And that's your Doc dead, no more healing, and that's a 1.5 with the MP5, which has no recoil, so good gun in hand. Also gone by the wayside. Early pick going against here this time, and now another falls. The gods have died, and they're going to need divine intervention from another if they're going to make this one work out.
Located by attackers.
honestly, I just, where are they getting this aggression from? Speaking of aggression, though, CZ just charges headlong in and gets absolutely ripped apart by Swifted. Swifted goes down the opposite side as Kento and Milano come into it. It's a 1v4. Rapid, the only one left. Rapid doesn't even see his opponent and dies straight through an alibi clone, and that will be that, Wes. Villa ending decisively in favor of Arial Arise.
And Arial Arise will ascend through the brackets towards their next opponent. That will be Shift North. They were the top seed, if that makes sense. They had won their group, and they had had the most points out of any of the top seeds. So that is certainly a team that Arial Arise will have to probably take more seriously than the opponent they had just gone up against. But either way, kudos to them. That's not till Wednesday, so they can just bask in the glory of the victory on this day.
Indeed. And I mean, you know, you and I were talking during the break and we said SYR was really close, right? They looked close. They just weren't quite there yet. I expected Villa to be a lot closer of a map, if I'm being honest. But Arial Arise, man, they just turned on the Jets and absolutely went to town on their opponents. It's a rough exit for SYR, a team that we know and we've said has done some impressive stuff in this tournament. They got their upset over Mystic. They haven't looked like a bad squad. And like I said during the map, I hope that they can learn some lessons here from this and take it away, right, Wes? That's the best thing they can do. Their opponents today were just better than they were, and they weren't quite able to rise to the occasion.
Right, and I have to wonder how they would do against other opponents who have a similar play style of aggression, and it's something that you have to adapt to. I mean, we've seen international play and what has been the kryptonite for a lot of NA teams and for a lot of EU teams, especially the Brazilian aggressive plays, and that's not exactly the same as what we saw, but again, it just comes from the same roots in a way, right? It's the mentality, it's the aggression and the confidence. Arial Rise have it, and SYR just didn't have it today.
They did not. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's your first semifinal fixed. It will be Arial Arise moving on to battle Shift North. We do have another quarterfinal coming up, so don't go anywhere. It'll be Achieve Esports versus Agony Esports here in the Canada Contenders League in just a little bit.